Hey guys, Huzzy here bringing you another video. Now welcome to another episode of League Discussion. Have not done one of these in what feels like a really long time, and a lot of you say that you enjoy them, and what I will say, because these generally don't do as well as the gameplays, feel free to like the video if you do like League Discussions. You know, whether this series continues in general or whatever is up to how well these videos perform. So please like it, comment, etc. if, you know, you enjoy them. First thing to also say, this video is in partnership with QT, so in the description we'll have a link to the QT of the first topic of today, which is going to be all about champion reworks. I want to know what you guys think about champion reworks. Do you like them? Do you think they're needed? What type of rework do you actually like? Do you like a really big rework that the champion is completely different, or do you like the more similar one, like a Warwick or something? I want to know, and what I would recommend to do is listen to what I say about them, and then you can kind of, in your own QT comment, go off, you know, what I've said. You can agree with it, counter it, anything you want. That's awesome. And remember, these are kind of like, it's not really a debate, it's a discussion, and it's an adult discussion. There's never any rage, there's never any bad blood in it. I just love learning more about the opinions of League. And the first thing to say is we're going to be giving, I think, $100 worth of riot points out in that QT. Not $100 to one person, but probably like 5 winners, 20 bucks each. And I won't be choosing the winners, they'll be picked by other people, but the link will be in the description down below. Reworks. So let's get into that topic first. I do have a backup topic just in case we need another topic, because I generally like to make these about 20 minutes long, these videos. So reworks, I think, are needed. That is where I'm opening my statement, because you only can have so many new champions in League. We already have 145 roughly champions in the game, and if no reworks happened and they were just constantly putting a new champion out nearly every month, we'd be up to 180 by now, and I actually feel there's already too many champions in League now. The more champions in League, the harder to balance the game, because all it takes is that balanced team that works at Riot. They obviously get a lot of hate, but all it takes, if you really think about it, is 145 whatever champions it is right now that have to get balanced, all of them. It takes one champion to have one broken interaction with one item in the game, and suddenly that can throw off the whole meta. Like, the whole meta can change due to one champion. That champion becomes popular, therefore the counters of that champion gets popular too. It changes everything. And that's just one champion. Imagine if 3 champions get through the cracks, and 3 champions out of 145 is nothing, you know, that is less than 3% of the game. So I am in the way that I do like reworks, because I don't want always new champions. League is nearly a 10-year game. We're actually like a month or so away from League being a 10-year-old game officially, which is kind of crazy. And some of these champions are really old. And pretty much, I went through a little bit on stream today of what champions that are really old haven't been changed. Practically every champion has been changed a little bit, but there are some champions out there that really haven't. Garen has hardly been changed. He got his kind of like Juggernaut update that like his ultimate has that kind of a like icon above something, but really fundamentally he's the same that he's been for a long time. Tryndamere is another example of that. Udyr is another example of that. There's these champions that exist that you could call some of them outdated, and they're just very old. So I do think reworking is a great way of dealing with that issue. There have been some successful reworks, there have been some unsuccessful reworks, and there's been different scales of reworks. Some of the reworks completely change the champion, that their identity is basically different. There have been some reworks that are very similar to their predecessor, but they might change a couple things, or they might modernize a couple things. So, for example, Warwick, most of us probably would agree that was a successful rework. What they did was modernize him, and I feel improved the old design. Some people would look at like the Akali rework and say it's interesting, but if you're an Akali player, you might actually not like that rework because it made the champion somewhat broken, and it's then kind of permabanned, or it's got nerfed heavily, and then they haven't been able to play the champion they've always enjoyed. Or you're an Aatrox player, it got reworked, and the whole kind of idea of Aatrox, that he's an auto-attacking based champion, got changed to a spell-based champion, a combo-based champion. That to you could be like, oh, my reasoning of Aatrox has gone. So in your QT, you know, reply, if you are interested in the riot points, you know, put it on the QT. If not, just comment on the YouTube. What type of rework do you like the most? And do you feel there's room for all of these type of reworks, or do you feel like, oh, there should only be, that it should be similar to what it used to be? Because it's interesting. Kale rework, that has been like weird in it's successful for those that play Kale, like right now, even though we're a few months after, they probably are Kale at the moment is an underrated champion. She's really hard to pull off, and you're practically useless in the first at least 11 levels. But if you are a Kale that knows what you're doing, and you don't feed in lane phase, and you farm relatively well, and you don't get too far behind, you probably are quite happy with where Kale is right now, surprisingly. But to people that maybe casually used to play Kale, and they look at the new one, oh, I'm useless before level 11, that's a bad rework to a lot of people. But to the people that love Kale, it's probably a decent one. It's little things like that. Again, if we go off the topic that kind of it made me think about doing this discussion, Pantheon. So Pantheon is an old champion, maybe released in 2010, roughly. He, again, I was disappointed with him, and that video, it got mixed reviews, let's say, but there were a lot of people that were agreeing with me, or they might have just not got my point. I think the new Pantheon rework is really cool. Visually, he looks cool, the new model is amazing, the spells look cool, his abilities are not bad at all, they're fine. What got me a bit like, oh, really, is, so Pantheon now, before the rework, is, as we all know, a early game lane abusing champion. So he's one of those top laners that runs Ignite, which is rare nowadays. He runs Ignite, and he has a very linear playstyle. Q a few times, then go for your all-in. If you even need a tower dive, then you've got the block with your W passive to block a tower shot. So the new rework has a lot of similarities. You can definitely tell that's Pantheon. If you had someone going, oh, is this that champion, but just an updated version, everyone go yes, even if they didn't play League. That's a good sign of a rework. It's still got his identity. What disappointed me was, what I feel like a rework should do is take a very niche champion, an old niche champion that may be a bit too outdated, that's got a very low play rate, and for Riot that wants to make money, they want champions with big play rates because that will sell more skins. So Pantheon is a very niche champion, basically a one-trick champion nowadays of people that enjoy that playstyle. And what I was hoping to do, okay, keep his kind of same abilities, which would be happy for the Pantheon players, but modernize him. And what they didn't do, unless, again, they can change it in testing, and balancing, etc., they didn't update him to modern League. Because, all of us know, people are smarter nowadays in every rating of the game. Back when Pantheon was made, Pantheon was oppressive. He was very hard to win, to be honest. Even back when, I played back then, even in Diamond 1, he was known as, oh god, I'm against Pantheon. Why? Because the player base was generally worse at League. And the player base didn't understand, oh, if I just play passive and don't let a Pantheon get ahead, he's really less effective. The problem with 2019 League of Legends, even a silver player, bronze player knows that. The player base on average has got smarter at the game. So the rework to me is cool, and visually it's like, ooh. And when I watched all the release and everything, I had a smile on my face. But what they did was keep his early game scaling. They kept his early game kind of pressure. And a lot of people actually say his early game is weaker. The new Pantheon is weaker than current Pantheon, which is a bit weird. But that's where I was disappointed, because I was like, this is such a cool rework, but the one thing that I missed the trick on is you can change the champion, you can modernize the champion, but modern League of Legends is not early game. It's just not that anymore. It's moved on. Even like champions like Renekton have more late game scalings now. He's been modernized. He has Conqueror and Spear of Shojin that can bring him to mid-late game. Pantheon can't do that. The champion just isn't designed that way, because they've kept his fundamental lane bullying early game playstyle. Run Ignite, run Electrocute, try to kill people early. And that is where I think that rework has slightly failed. And again, as other reworks go, I did say in that video, which might have been a bit too far, this is my most disappointed I've ever been in a rework, because I do play top from time to time. I play jungle, and the champion is a jungle or top laner, is what Riot is saying. And I can't see myself playing that rework. Of all the champions that have been reworked, he looks cool. But in high rating, unless you're going to one-trick it because you just love that playstyle, high rating people aren't going to play that, because everyone knows how to beat it without even doing anything. That's the funny thing. You beat it by not fighting it early. because you'll outscale it on everything. Or if imagine you do beat Pantheon, if you're playing Renekton or something, then that Pantheon is legitimately screwed, especially in high rating. Probably even in low rating too, but that is where for a rework, I think that rework has failed because it modernized his kit. It's an updated version. They kept it to, yeah, that is Pantheon. Yeah, everybody can tell that's Pantheon, but what it didn't do was modernize the damage to modern League of Legends, which is more mid-game, arguably late game is now League of Legends because the players have got smarter and people are dying less on average. And people are like, oh, early game, I don't fight him, I just won't feed. People are getting smarter. So that is where I think that rework has gone bad. Kayle, for example, is the other spectrum of that. Like, I have to get to late game to do anything, So that's where I find reworks interesting, is because you've got a fine line of not disappointing the players that already play that champion, because we've seen it, the backlash, and this is possibly, and where some people might say the point, this is possibly where Riot has done this Pantheon thing on purpose completely. Well, one, they've done it on purpose anyway, but is because the backlash that they have received from one-tricks and mains of previous reworks is huge. And when I do say it, and I don't want to take it lightly, there have been threats to Rioters about some reworks that have happened. Like, one-tricks going a bit too far, or very too far, to the designers of these reworks, saying you have ruined my reason for League, and threatening them. And I think Riot is just kind of done with that. So yes, they'll modernize a kit, but they're like, all right, we're just going to kind of keep it with his exact same playstyle. He's early game, he's a lane bully. That's what you've got now, again, which isn't modern League. And again, it wouldn't be a problem is if they were reworking something, let's say, like Tryndamere. There's only so much you can do with Tryndamere, but if you keep Tryndamere to his fundamentals, Tryndamere is a late game hyper carry. So that wouldn't be bad, because in modern League of Legends, a late game hyper carry is good. That is modern League. But Pantheon, being that early game, kind of all in or nothing lane phase champion, it's just not modern. That's it. That is the issue. And it's been shown just because it's Pantheon getting reworked. So let me know in the QC what type of rework you would like. Is it something like Pantheon that is very true to the old champion? That would, it pleases the people that still play him. It may interest a couple new people, but really that rework, and what I'd say, that rework is for the people that already play Pantheon. It's a modern version, it's a cooler version, but it's the same playstyle, it's the same scaling. If you love that early game aggression of Pantheon now, you'll love it in the rework because it's exactly the same. Is that the rework that you think Riot should always do? Is you could just keep with what the champion is? Or do you like reworks like Aatrox, that they change the champion's fundamentals? Let me know. I imagine most of you probably like keeping it to its original. And again, the reason why I think it's been shown maybe a little bit rougher with this rework Pantheon is because, again, Pantheon's play style is just not modern League anymore. It just isn't. So maybe it's just showing a bit more in this rework than others. Because, there have been other reworks that have kept very similar. Warwick, for example, kept to similar. And there was no issues because Warwick's playstyle has generally always been kind of mid-game. And mid-game is fine for modern League of Legends. Maybe, again, that's why. Because is this the first... It might be the first ever champion that they're fully reworking that is an early game champion. And they kept him to early game. That it might be the first ever example that's happened. But other than that, some of the reworks have been pretty good. Some of them been a bit meh, they had, even smaller scale reworks of like the Rengar, LeBlanc. They reverted certain aspects of champions, and Riot is going to get it wrong every now and then, which is only human. But I'd really want to know what your opinion is. What type of rework do you think is best? Or do you think all of them are fine, and it's just case by case dependent? Some champions you can keep it to its old kind of playstyle. Some champions you can change completely. Because I can tell you now, because some people may ask, why would you change something like Aatrox? Because, that is an example of where Riot is getting away from the old playstyle. So the old playstyle of just auto-attacking something was a very old kind of playstyle in League, and that's like the likes of Tryndamere and stuff, Jax, they're old champions. Riot doesn't really make champions anymore that just stand there, especially melee champions. They don't really make them that they just stand there and whack things. That's really old League of Legends when their coding and everything was a lot more basic. Riot love more flashy champions now that do more things. So what Riot did, honestly, was take old Aatrox, and which was just auto attack, and they modernized him to new League of Legends, which is not just auto attack for melee champions. They gave him abilities. And again, that would be, and it depends if Riot is scared or not to do it, when eventually Tryndamere gets reworked, and yes, it will happen, that's just the way of things, old champions get reworked. How are they going to do Tryndamere? Because, will they make him auto attack, which is obviously not modern League of Legends at all, or will they give him abilities, but then the people that used to play Tryndamere, who love the auto attack playstyle, will then hate the new Tryndamere. The dilemma of reworks is absolutely insane, and that is why they're always a bit of an issue. But yeah, let me know your opinion about them. The link is in the description on the QT, and yeah, go nuts. Say what reworks you like, say which reworks you hate. What champions do you think should get reworks? And just remember, after this Pantheon one, we've got Fiddlesticks and we've got Volibear. And from what we've been told so far, Fiddlesticks is apparently going to be a support, is what we've heard. And it's a pretty... I think even in their update, kind of it was hinting that he's going to be a support. So if you're a Fiddlesticks jungler player, you might be like, oh no. And again, that's another issue. What happens if they rework a champion that before the rework is viable for one role? Fiddlesticks jungle, for example, they rework him and he's no longer that role. What legit happens if you're a Fiddlesticks diamond jungle one trick and they literally rework your champion one and then also take away that role from that player? That is no longer a diamond player anymore, if we're honest. And also, if they don't like the rework, what the hell is that player going to do? That's the other issue, is yes, reworking is healthy because it opens up the game and opens up the player base to new champions, but what happens to the pre-existing player base? And I've always said you don't design a game for one tricks or anything, but you do have to take them into account partially. And then Volibear looks pretty interesting. I think they're very much going to go more of a shamanistic effect on him, a lot more about his lightning, but still making him tanky. For what I've heard, one of his abilities could be a reflecting CC of some kind, that if he, with his active or when he presses a button, a certain amount of time, any part of CC that goes on him, he reflects it and slows everything. So for example, if he pops it, a Sejuani throws an ultimate on him, an Ash Arrow hits him, a Vi ultimate, a Vi Q hits him all at the same time, he gets affected by none of it and they all get slowed. That to me sounds really, really interesting, by the way. Might be a bit too overpowered because, some abilities inherently are just broken. That does sound a bit strong. But yeah, that does sound interesting, huh? So that is that big topic, reworks. And we'll leave it there. Let me know what your opinion is in the QT down below. I'm actually really interested in this one. And next quick topic that we'll end on is smurfing, because I do see occasionally people say to me, Huz, I'm stuck in silver. Do you think I should make a smurf and maybe that would help? No. So does smurfing help you get better at League? Honestly, not really. So there are different ways of smurfing. Some people smurf just to have fun, and that is perfectly fine. Some people smurf that they've got a new friend that plays the game, and you don't want them to get crushed every game when you're on your main account, so you level up a new account with them. That's fine too. But to, you're a silver or a gold player, to then have a smurf that you think then would help you is probably not the answer, because the best way to improve at League is playing against better opponents. If you're actually taking in what they are doing better than you, it's the best way to learn League. So in reality, playing on your main account is probably better in all situations. I learn more when I'm on my main account in Diamond 1 roughly than I do when I'm doing a Smurf series. The Smurf series is because I'm a YouTuber. I would not really Smurf at all, if I'm honest, if I wasn't one, because it is definitely hurt me as a player, because the way that I Smurf also hurts me. So I play anything in the Smurf series, we kind of don't pay full attention. You can tell I'm not tryharding that much. We're doing a commentary, there's a lot of distractions, so it doesn't help me that much. But if you are somebody that is very serious about improving, can Smurf help you at all? This is where people are going to go, is Huz feeling okay? If you one-trick Smurf, maybe. If you still have your main account in mind, that you're like, I want my main account to be high rating, the possible thing that you can do is one-trick on a Smurf to refine that skill set. So if you're a top lane player and you're like, I want to get better at Aurelia and Jax, then play Aurelia and Jax while leveling up to the level of your main account. Level the Smurf, rank up the Smurf, say you're a platinum player, Smurf just playing Aurelia on the main account, go back on the main account, and you probably will be a bit cleaner on Aurelia. It's just playing it more. And if you don't want to risk the LP on the main account as you're improving, then I guess it might help. But if you deviate and start to like mess around a little bit, like a lot of Smurfs do, then it's going to hurt you. Another thing that obviously happens is, depending how long you Smurf and how long you don't play on the main account, you can get kind of not lazy, but you can kind of get surprised when you go back on the main account. It's very hard to always tell in videos, but the little things that are different, even from diamond, even from low diamond to high diamond, or platinum to diamond, sometimes if you put two videos together, it's very hard to tell, but there are very small differences that actually make a big difference. That it's the reaction times. It could be literally half a second reaction time, less, that is just different in higher rating. So if you spend a time smurfing and the reaction times are slower, you don't get punished for your mistakes as much. The moment you go back on your main account, boom, that little mistake that you made, you're dead now in high rating or your higher rating, because the reaction time is quicker, mistakes are punished higher. So little things like that can actually hurt you if you have been smurfing. So overall, I really wouldn't recommend smurfing if you want to improve at League. I think just playing on your main account and just grinding it out is probably better in the long run. Or the other way, if you are serious about climbing, I've said it before, and you've got to be careful. I never want to put people in a toxic situation. But I've mentioned before, there are services, or free services, there used to be anyway, called stuff like Silver versus Platinum, or clubs like Gold versus Diamond. And the idea, and again, I don't know if they still go on, and I hope they do, because apparently they were quite good, but they eventually got quite toxic, of Platinum player just crushing Silver player and laughing. But the idea was, you take Platinum players that have free time that want to help Silver players. The Silver players lane against a Platinum player. The Platinum player usually would beat that Silver player, and then after the game you have a bit of a chat with the Platinum player and they say, oh, you did this, this and this. And it's not just that, it's also watching what that Platinum player is directly doing different to you. That is one of the best ways that you can improve at League. Again, I don't know if they still go on. I would hope that they do. It is something that maybe we could organise as like a little event. If you want that, let me know in the YouTube comments. Of like, we get a bunch of diamonds, including me, and then we get a bunch of maybe golds on the enemy team. We do a video pointing out the little differences that people are doing in that game. That could be interesting. But yeah, that's going to be it. If you guys did enjoy, throw a like on the video. Remember, use the QT link if you want to earn some riot points. Let me know what your opinion is on the reworks. Again, you are not entered unless you go comment on the QT. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. Again, if you want more League discussions, hit the smooshy on the like button. Feel free to say any more topics that you may have, because again, it's hard sometimes to think of topics. But I'll see you guys next time. Peace.